Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Mordechai. Shkoyach Doilo. Shkoyach Yankee. Shkoyach all the new guys, the old guys. Shkoyach. We lost half the shir. It took a few days to get back into it, but okay. Bezer Hashem. So first of all, I want to say grace Shkoyach. Yesterday, a few people gave me gifts in the 9 days. But there were mutter gifts. Yaakov Lak gave me $10,000. Yeah, for me to spend on whatever I want. No, I'm just kidding. It was for MDY. So Yishkoyach Reb Yaakov from B3 Bikes. This I have to just set up real quickly so that we have some sort of an idea where we are. Okay. Our official MDY MSP gave me 2 sets of these. I didn't even look at the second set. Who knows? Maybe the second set is not even for me. It's Shnai Mikra Vechatargum, a full set with my name engraved. And on the back it says, it doesn't say Moshe Banda, it says from the official MDY MSP. I didn't even see it when he gave it to me. So Yishkoyach Gadol Ma'od, it's for learning, it's Torah. This is for sure. You can give it during the 9 days. This I don't want to blind the oilam, but this is my new light. If I could get it somewhere where it's not on screen, it will be gewaldic. Maybe I'll just leave it here until I can't see something. This is from Just and Ivry. He calls himself Just and Ivry. Dear Belly, I hope all is well. My daughter drew a picture of me driving to her to camp with her friends in the car as well. I don't know how old this girl is. It makes a difference, I guess, based on the art, but okay. Assuming she's under the age of 18. Not a bad piece of art. Here, let me show. And yes, I'm listening to this shir. If you look closely, you can see the para aduma that you showed the other day. I put an arrow there. Oh, arrow didn't really make it onto the screen. Okay, sorry. My daughter loved that picture of the cow. Thank you for all that you do. Wishing you only the best and safe travel. Sincerely, Yosef Lin. The Manchester Mesifta Year 8 class on an end-of-year trip. 8 members of the class are proud MDY members. Wow. In Manchester, 8 boys, I wasn't aware of that, 8 boys are part of MDY. Learning the Daf daily. Keep on going. And slowly turning their own Rebbe into an MDY or Kol Tov Moshe Belilo. And here goes. One! It's a little loud. All right. Kiss from Hashem for you and I as I got into the throughway to go. Oh, that's not for the island to read? Okay, whatever you say. Then I have to read it from the small screen. South to New York City, I turned on the radio to Lo Barama, whatever that means, in Lakewood. And the first, what? Kol Barama, maybe. Kol Barama in Lakewood. And the first words I hear are Rabbi Pesach Kron saying, "And you know who that happened to? My daughter." He was relating the exact story they just told over in Shir. Kiss from Hashem. And here it gets even more interesting. Dear Belly, first Mazel Tov on your family and Bar Mitzvah. We'll be enjoying Tannersville while we're sweltering away here in sunny South Florida. The story you told, my son who lives in Florida won't admit that it's 110 degrees every day and that he doesn't like it. No, it's unbelievable. Miami, it's the best. It's like a month straight, 110. Story told over from Reb Pesach Kron is true, as I've been zoich to be part of this experience. 5 years ago in Shoshana, Ephraim Shapiro spoke about turning to the person. Maybe it means that he's not part of the story, but that he had the same experience. I'm not exactly sure. Ephraim Shapiro from North Miami Beach spoke about turning to the person sitting next to you and daven for each other. My daughter Yocheva was sitting next to Shira. They each said that they'll daven for each other for a shidduch. 6 months later, my daughter got married to Chaim, and that night, her friend Shira got engaged. Still enjoying the daf and waiting for that magical phone call saying, "We have a matching kidney for you, Bezos Hashem, Pesach Goodman, Pesach Moshe, Ben Hinda Bracha." How do I get in touch with that Strauss guy from a few days ago? I just want to schmooze with him. Yeah, you don't want to take a second kidney. That wouldn't be. Thanks for having a meaningful fast, which will become Yontif this year, Bezer Hashem. What else do we have? Oh, sponsors. Let me just read it from the big screen if you don't mind. The Koilel is sponsored by Namas from Lakewood. Liz Chus Refuah Shlema for Shalema Esther Bas Bela. The Masechta, Moshe Banda, to thank Hashem that I'm able to thank Him for everything that I have. Parnassa Chodesh, Li Nishmat Zechariah Bas Yosef. Parnassa Chodesh, Li Nishmat Zechariah Ben Moshe. Parnassa Chodesh, Bracha. This is a new one, I think. A Bracha had to die in all my endeavors. But no, we had this. Baruch Tzvi Nissim Ben Shoshana Leah. Parnassa Chodesh. This is a new one. Dr. Avrum Epstein, my neighbor who lives 2 floors below me, in memory of the 3rd yahrzeit of his beloved Raiza Gitl Bas Zeav. 5th Parnassa Chodesh, Mordechai ben Esther for complete Refuah Shlema b'Karoi. Parnassa Shavua, Ari Stawis, Refuah Shlema for Leah Bas Gitel and segulah for continued parnassa. The Parnassa Yomi. Today is, I guess tonight, tomorrow is the yahrzeit of the Heilige Jack Reichenbach from here, Chicago, sponsored by Rabbi Aver. What's your first name? Yaakov Aver. It's the Shama. Should have an Aliyah. I don't know, maybe other people sponsors, who knows? I doubt. I don't know. I don't think so. Not that I doubt, but I don't think so. I didn't see it. Mendy Schmerling, in honor of my father's yahrzeit, the 8th of Av, Levi Yitzchok ben Boruch Bendit Schmerling. The second sponsor, Mr. Steinhart, on the occasion of his 70th birthday, Daf Yomi, sponsored by his children. Third, Elliot Moskowitz, successful surgery for Michal Gershom ben Chava and Atzlochen, our Aliyah, Ramat Shemesh, Gimel, in 1 month. Sponsored by the powwow team in the hopes, this was shticky, got me to do a sponsorship. In the hopes that Rebelli will come speak at the Rebeach Real Estate Conference this Monday in New York. Yes, honorable shout out to our good friend Nissim. That's why I said, okay, because they have a shout out to Nissim, that's fine. The biggest mensch in the business. The biggest mensch in the business, Nissim. Chanochen, Lekovet HaChosid, Rishlam Zalman HaLevi, Larichas Yomim, Vishonim, Yuzinterheit. Who's that? Not you, right? Art of the month for complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Leah Boisai. Here we go. Today is Daf Aleph, and I just want to warn the Olam. It's the time to warn the Olam that tomorrow is a difficult day to learn. Shir tomorrow is at 11:30 a.m. because we want to finish before Chatzos. Shir on Motzei Tisha B'Av is 11 p.m. A very difficult day to learn because it's hard to break a fast and learn afterwards, and you might fall behind. And if you do, it's okay. We just continue weiter. Don't try to make it up. Jump ahead. But do anything. Now that you know it's a problem, do whatever you can do not to fall behind. All right, so our boy's side. If a person is a cheresh, a person who's a cheresh, a person Midrabanan called a cheresh, and we'll see in the Torah might call him a little differently. A cheresh is somebody who can't hear and can't speak, and halachically is considered a shaita. He doesn't have das. So he cannot get married midaraisa, but he could get married midrabanan, and therefore, if he gets married midrabanan, his whole divorce is midrabanan. Okay? What happens if a person gets married when he's regular, he's competent, and then he becomes a cheresh? So his kiddushin is doiraisa, his wife is married to him a doiraisa, now he's only capable of giving her a get midrabanan. Very problematic. So therefore, it's not a get. Somebody like that becomes a shaita during his marriage, it happens unfortunately. Person has a breakdown, whatever it is, they institutionalize him, he can't give a get. Now, a cheresh is the same thing. Halachically, became meshuga, whatever it is, he doesn't have the capacity to divorce, he cannot give a get. Why? Because he got into this marriage with a doiraisa marriage, and he's now only capable of giving a doirabanan get. Doesn't work. Had he gone into the marriage in a doirabanan way, because he was a shaita to begin with, he was a cheresh to begin with, then it would work. So Rav drops a bomb over here, and that's what we're going to be dealing with this Amud. Amar Rav, and by the way, this is 70 daf into Gittin. I met 2 people in New York on 2 different days who told me that they started in Gittin, yet it has already enhanced and changed their lives, and they were very, very serious about it. was a guy there. I think I mentioned. Did I mention in share? I don't even remember because I spoke about it a number of times. Guy there came over to me, chassid, maybe in his 40s. Did I say this yesterday in share? Who heard yesterday in share? I did not say this. So I said this after share. Yes, I was telling. Okay, so there's a 19-year-old kid that came over to me. He was a little bit out of yeshiva or whatever, working this that. He started Gittin, changed his life. So I said, I want to tell you something. Last night, the night before, a chassid, a 40-something-year-old came. He said he just started learning Gittin. He's very emotional. He said that it was his first time ever learning Torah, ever in his life. And then he said that certain daf, I don't remember, maybe daf lamed, in Gittin, he got very depressed. I said, why? He said, because where was I? How come I didn't know about this shir beforehand? And how come I didn't learn any Torah beforehand? This Gevaldik, he said literally, he's addicted to the daf. He can't go to sleep. He's addicted. Mom, it's changed his life. But what happened for my first 40-something years, he said. I said, no, we only look forward. We don't look back. What happened, now we're going forward, Shalom Yisrael. I told the 19-year-old, I said, look, you said change your life. You're 19. You don't have to come and tell me that you're depressed. It's the beginning of your life. Let's go. All right. Why did I say this? I have no idea.
You guys are going to fall
Oh, because we are 70 daf into Gitel. That's why. 70 daf into Gitel. That's an amazing achievement, even for those who just started Gittin. 70 daf. It's tremendous. Omer Rav Kan Omer Rav. Says Rav. So now we have an in-between case. We have a guy who could write, but only write. He can't talk. He can't hear, he can't talk, but he could write. He shows a little bit of competency. The halacha is, so it's a little bit out of order, but let me just show you this. Here we go. He says, Kisvu utnu get ishti uploini eidai. Fine. Kisvu get. He wrote. Look, he's a deaf mute. He can't, well, over here, he has ears. He really shouldn't be having ears. Huh? Yeah. No, he had, there are other pictures that but he says, Kisvu. So this is the big halacha that we want to remember. Rav says that even though he right now can't hear or speak, he could write again. Amar Rabbi Yosef, my komash.
He said that you just ask him 3 times. Doesn't even have to write.
With what?
Just ask 3 times.
Oh, we're going to get to everything. Yeah. Hey, Shkoya. I have already one, but thank you.
I couldn't see it.
Yeah, but Shkoya, thank you. No, I'm going to use yours, not Reb Zalman's.
No, I couldn't see one of the computers.
So now I have to chazir the whole sugya? You just missed the whole sugya. Shkoya. Fine, we're going to get there also. Says the Gemara. So, here, let's see. I'm going to use the light here for a second. Let's see if it works. Oh, yeah, it works. Nishtatek, if the guy became mute, right over here, he became mute. I don't know, to me, I was in Eretz Yisrael in a restaurant, a Chinese restaurant, and there were 10 Bacher and Yeshiva guys on a round table. I'm sure everybody saw the same thing. All 10 of them were on their phone. They're just texting away. They're all at a meal together, trying to hang out, but none of them were communicating with each other, communicating with other people outside of that room. I took a picture. I got up, took a picture, and then one guy's, what are you doing?
They're texting each other.
I don't know what to do. So maybe they're texting each other. But it reminded me over here. They can't speak, but they can talk. They could write. I'm saying, we understand this. A guy that knows how to write, but he can't talk. And they said, hey, what should we do? Should we write a get for your wife? Now, going like this with your head, Yankee, just to say, when you go like this, it's less than writing. Writing is a much higher level of competence, of understanding, right? A guy that goes this, we said yesterday, maybe he doesn't know what he's doing. Maybe he's in a mood. He's saying yes. Little babies also know how to go like this. A baby doesn't know how to write. So writing is it's a high level of understanding. So we checked him 3 times. Yes. We said yesterday, you do it 1 time yes, and then 2 times no. Okay. Hare Elu yichtavu v'yitnu. So it works. So what do you see over here? That we already know this halacha. Basically, even less than writing works, but over here it's not so pashut because it's not the same case as ours. Our case, the guy is really bad off. He can't hear and can't speak, so he needs to write, which is a high level. Over here, we bring a raya from a guy that just can't speak, but he could hear, and you could do a lesser level. He understands, okay, it kind of equals out. It evens out. He has more das, and he's giving us less indication that he wants to get divorced, and it works. So a guy has less das, because he can't even hear, he's giving us more indication because he wrote. It should definitely work, the Gemara says. Okay. That's what the Gemara understood in the Kasha. So why does Rav even have to say it? We're gonna show that maybe Rav is wrong. But over here the Gemara is saying, why does the Rav even have to say it? Oh, Reb Zera, Elam Kamras. Well, you bring me a raya from a guy that just can't speak? Shani Elam the Tanya. Oh, here. So that's basically the picture that Yoshi drew. That was more for the Elam guy, not a Cherish. The Tanya, Medaber Venish Mez Cherish. Sorry. Shani Elam. A Elam has full capacities. He's a Pekeach. He just can't speak. Nebuch. But so that's why he could go like that with his head. The Tanya, Medaber Venish Mez Cherish. Shemea ve'enu medaber ze Elam. So what's an Elam? Somebody that could speak, he can't hear. Shemea ve'enu medaber. Sorry, Desanya. Medaber ve'enu shemea. If he could speak and he can't hear, zehu cherish. That's a cherish. Shemea ve'enu medaber. If he could hear but he can't speak, zehu Elam. V'zeh harein kipichim l'chol derein. The Gemara says, Raiza Gitl, a guy that just can't speak but he can hear well, he's a pikeach. So of course, if he goes with his head, but we're talking about Rav's cases, he can't hear and he can't speak. So halachically he's a shaita usually, unless he can prove that he's not a shaita. If he was born like that, of course he's a shaita halachically. This guy became later on in life, so he's not such a shaita. A person who can't, I have to say the joke here because it's the 9th day. There was a guy that complained that his wife couldn't hear. You know, a lot of people complain, wife can't hear. Sometimes they can't hear, sometimes they pretend they can't hear. So this guy, he went to the doctor. The doctor said, you know what you do? You walk into the house and you say something to your wife. And then you keep on getting closer and you see if she's talking deaf or not. So he walks into the house and he says, what's for dinner? Nothing. He takes 5 steps. What's for dinner? Nothing. Finally, he gets all the way to her and says, what's for dinner? And she turns around and says, I told you 20 times schnitzel. Okay, he's the deaf guy. I'm like a deaf person, I don't hear. So deaf means I don't hear. Elam means somebody can't speak. Let me see if I can find it here without making everybody crazy again. Ishtakin milule means that his words were taken away from him. So Rashi explains they take the aleph and the lamed and the mem. It's like a rosh tevis, and it becomes the word Elam. Ishtakel milule, the words were removed from him. That's what the word Elam means. Akapanim Elam means he doesn't speak, but he can hear perfectly, so he's a pikeach, and therefore he can do with his head. Rav is talking about a different case completely, where he can't hear, he can't speak. If I had a question, this is the question. Sanya im lo yagid prat li Elam she'eni yochel hagid. What does that mean? So Rashi says over here, let's see. This is talking about a person that knows edus, he can testify. He doesn't feel like it. So it says that, and then he says, oh, I swear that I don't know anything. So he's chayev a carbon. But this only applies to somebody lo yagid, somebody that could speak and doesn't speak. But Elam, who can't speak, he's not chayev. If they gave him a shvuah, they go to a guy who can't speak. And they say, swear that you didn't see anything, okay? Because he could see, he could understand, he could testify. They told him, do you swear? And he goes like this with his head, not chayev anything. Why? Because the pasuk says, im lo yagid, if he doesn't say, but he can't speak. So Mela, he's potter. Ask the Gemara, but according to what you're telling me, Rav, Amai, You're telling me that writing is like speaking. It shows that he's competent. So why can't he testify through a piece of paper and then he should be chayav like everybody else? I'm like, Abaya, Eidos Converse, he asked me a question about Eidos. Shani Eidos, the Rachmana Omar Mepiem, the Loy Mepik Savo. It says in the Pasuk, Al Pi, with the mouth of Shnei Edim Yochim Dover, Yumas Ameis, we know. So it happens to be that by Eidos you need to speak, and therefore we have a Yisoid in Shas, Mepihem, Veloy Mepik Savo. When it comes to testimony of Eidim, they have to say it verbally. They can't just write it on a piece of paper. Point to Rashi, there is sometimes that we have Eidos on a piece of paper when the signing of Eidim on any shtar. But that's, Rashi says, different. Okay, fine. So don't ask me about Eidos. Eidos is different. Meisvei, Kashem Sheboitkin Oisoi Li Gittin. So just like we take a guy that's mute, he can't speak, and we check him to see if he knows what's going on with Gitel. How? By him shaking his head. So this is very important. Over here, the Raiza says that we check him also for maso maton, for business, ulei duyos, and for shalom aleichem. What a guest! Wow. Ulei duyos, and for testimony, lerushois. How do we check? Through ksav. It's a little bit tricky. We're going from Hirkin Roishai to go like this to ksav. No, again, if a guy is mute, we want to see if he understands what's going on, and if he does through writing, he could testify for business, for different testimonials, for Yerusha. Wait a minute, you Abai said that it doesn't work. He has to be he has to be capable of speaking. Over here it says a guy that's mute could testify. Oh, we're talking about the testimony to allow a woman to marry somebody else when her husband didn't show up. Now we had a whole sugya where in Yuvamis, I think, where even a idachad is good enough, even a shifcha. We were very, very makel. Where was the ksuvas or Yuvamis?
Yeah, Yuvamis.
And the Yuvamis, okay, interesting. So that's why over here a guy that can't speak, fine, we let him testify for a woman. Asking Marva, Ktani Yerushas, but how does Yerusha fit into Isha? It's a completely different topic of Yerusha. We're talking about a guy who's mute, and he's just testifying that his Bechar should not get Pishnaya. Typically, a Bechar gets two parts. He's saying, no, I want to do different than what the Torah says. I want the Bechar to get one part. We said, when we spoke about this, it's not a good thing to do against the Torah, again, unless you do it in certain ways, whatever, but usually not a good idea to take your kids out of the Yerusha and to break up and say the Bechar shouldn't get two pieces. Okay. Tani Miyas, L'masois L'matonis. My lab la'alma, but it says masomatam, business. Isn't that for everybody else? Loi lididei. That he himself, when he goes to purchase a few apples, he's allowed to go with his head like this, like that. But not for anybody else, so maybe it does fit in with a bite. Now, we're talking about deaf people. I want to tell you a beautiful ma'isa. It's a famous ma'isa. It's kedai to hear it again. There were two frogs who fell into a giant pot of milk. And all the frogs came running to the pot, and they started screaming, "Say Shema Yisrael! It's over! That's it! It's gone! You're goners! Just say Shema Yisrael! Who gets the Yerusha? The whole thing! All the frogs are panicking. Why? Because a lot of their friends fell into the same pot. They couldn't get out. You can't get out. So one of the frogs actually drowned and died right away. The second frog kept on kicking and going on for literally hours, just kicking and kicking. And finally, the milk turned into cheese. It got a little bit thicker, and the frog was able to escape. So they asked the frog, what's shot? So the frog said, they realized immediately when they started speaking to the frog was deaf. Couldn't hear. So when all the frogs were screaming, say Shema Yisrael, the frog thought that they were like encouraging, hey, kick, you keep on going. And they were screaming. So he kept like screaming. And that's how he was saved. If the other frog, he heard his friend saying, it's all over, say Vidui, say Shema. So he drilled. So the Musar Haskell is, obviously, that in life, and Rabbi Kaplan could tell you, and Yosef Ben Zeav is not here tonight. I bought a lot of houses from Yosef Ben Zeav. And every single piece of real estate I ever bought, and mamish, every single piece of real estate I ever bought, there are always those people who told me, don't buy it. You're going to lose your pants. It's not kedai. You don't know what you're doing. Every single thing. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking with myself, my best friend at the time, that when I lived here in Chicago, tried to convince me not to go to Eretz Yisrael. He said, Eretz Yisrael, you're not ready for Eretz Yisrael. You can't move to Eretz Yisrael. You shouldn't do it. What a mess. I didn't listen to him. No. I've been stuck here in Chicago with 6 people in my Daf Yomi over there in that house. Amos. Every single thing in my life was always the naysayers. And I said, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. Anytime I want to buy a piece of real estate, I go and ask my wife. As soon as she says no, I buy it. If she says no, don't, then I even buy it quicker. There's always that naysayer. Amos. So don't ever listen to those guys, because those guys will just make you drown. And when you hear that noise, you're supposed to pretend that they're encouraging you. Emes or not emes? Emes. That's how it is. Don't open up that shul. Don't open up that yeshiva. There's always that guy in oilam that knows better than you. And don't listen to them. Fine. Zog the Gemara. So I'm saying sometimes it's kedai even to be deaf, in this case. Meisvei. Cheresh lo yholchu boi acher remizoisav, v'acher kfisoisav, v'acher ksav yodoi, elo b'metaltal. We learned in a Braisa that when it comes to a deaf person, we don't listen to his different remazim, to his winking, and his sign languages, and he could jump up and down, and he could write it in a document. But when it comes to metaltalin, when it comes to just buying, just stuff, then we can use that. Avaloi Gittin. This doesn't work for Gitel. Oh, hold on. You got to use Justin Avery's light. Oh. Still doesn't help. Okay. Oh. Yeah, no, it did help. Help Givaldi. So this, we're talking about a case of a person that was completely sane, normal, and then he became a cheresh. So it doesn't work for Gittin. Again, we have a case, a guy that was normal. He heard, he spoke, everything was good. Then later on in life, he became a deaf mute. What should the halacha be if he wants to get divorced? According to Rav, if he writes it down, he says, Kisvu get li'ishti, you should listen to him. Over here it says, Lo Gittin. It doesn't work. Even ksiva doesn't work. That's a big kasha on Rav, the first line of the song. So the Gemara Tanoi, okay, fine. There's machlokes Tanoim, and Rav is going to go one way, and you're going to go the other way. When a person is deaf mute from his first day of life, from the beginning of his life, when he's a child, first day, whatever it is, then we say that he doesn't have the das. In those days, you couldn't read, you couldn't write, you couldn't do anything, they didn't know how to deal with it, considered a shaita. But in our case, where he was sane, he was competent, and he became a cheresh, he could write and they could sign. Fine. Says the Gemara, you tell me that a person is deaf from the beginning. He cannot write. He can't tell people to do a get. It says, there's a very talented guy in Koil in Eretz Yisrael that puts these out every day. Started saying them a little earlier. I'm surprised he did this one. It's a little risque, but okay. On the right, you see, there's a little wink. There's a Koil guy doing this. And then Moitzia Beremiza. It's just one is a wink and one is with his hand. Okay. So a guy, and that fits right into what we said before. That if his kiddushin is the Rabbanon kiddushin, he got married to her only with the Rabbanon because he's a cheresh and he can't get married with the Raiza. So then he could be moitzi her also with the Rabbanon. His whole kiddushin is the Rabbanon, so the get is the Rabbanon. Says the Gemara, Ibishto Yachanami. So check this out for just a second. So it goes like this. When it comes to a Yavama, so what happens? We have the, let me just find, wow. Okay. Let's go through this real quickly so that, you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here you have a Pikeach that became Elam. There's a Shaita, the Static. Okay, next. So Cheresh, I'm just going to go through them as we have them, and hopefully we'll get to where I need to get to. Actually, I might have to skip. What? Something just happened to my screen. Back. It's not working geschmack today. Sorry, guys. Let's do this. I'll just jump here for a second. No. Do you guys see that? Oh, you do see it. Okay, good. I don't know what happened. No. No. I don't want that one. Hold on, Mark. Before you press, let me do it. Okay, I want this one. Okay. So Midaraisa, to get married, Midaraisa, both of them have to be competent, the man and the woman. Okay, here you have competent. If the man is not competent and the woman is, it's only the Rabbanon. And vice versa. If the woman is not competent, the man is, it's only the Rabbanon. Each one is if one of the two is not competent, then it's not a marriage Deraisa. So, what do we have here? We have a case where there was a couple that was married and they didn't have children. If they don't have children, what happens? If the husband dies, then the woman falls liibum to the brother. What? So now, the Gemara is going to talk about a case. Well, we really have two cases. We have a case where the brother who got married to begin with was a cheresh. So if he's a cheresh, what does that make his marriage? Only the Rabbanan. And therefore, the zika, the connection that the Yavama has to her brother-in-law is the Rabbanan. And then we have a case where he was a pikech. It was a good marriage. So let's see. Says Gemara, let's say that the brother was deaf, and therefore it was only the Rabbanon marriage. So then it should work. Should be able to get out just by making a remez, because the whole marriage is a weak marriage. So we're talking about, let's see if we have. So that's that case. Is that it? Oh, here we go. I didn't have time before share to set up these things, so everything is out of whack. Okay, sorry. So over here you have a case where the brother is a cheresh, so it's a zik d'Rabbanan, and if it's a pikeach, then it's d'oraisa. So
what are kids considered?
Different day, different time. No, we could say that the MS, she could get out of it with a remiza. Why? Because the whole marriage of the brother is a cheresh, and a cheresh is only the rabban. So we're making exera now. We're going to say all these yivams. We have to be concerned that we might make a mistake. If it's a derabbanon, you're right. It should work. A derabbanon marriage could get out with a derabbanon get. But we have to be concerned that it's midaraisa. it's a deraisa marriage, and you wouldn't be able to get out. So, as the Gemara, we should also make a gzeira by a regular woman that he shouldn't be able to divorce her with a remiza. Says Gemara, these two cases are similar when you have a deraisa yibum and a derabanan yivama. But a case of a married woman with a yavama that just fell. In other words, it's a very interesting case if you think about it. You have a person who didn't ask to get into this marriage, but fell into this marriage through yibum, and it became very strong marriage, or sometimes it's a weaker marriage, it's the rabbanon marriage. Says Gemara, when do we see that we should make a gzeira, a deaf person that's the rabbanon, because maybe people get confused and think that he can get out of a marriage deraisa? What's not? Daf Yomi days. Let me see if we have anything here. No, we don't. Okay, so we did this in Yevamas more. So let's do this really slow. It's very, very simple. Two brothers who are deaf, they get married. What's their marriage? Only the Rabbana. Does it matter who they marry and how they marry? No. If they marry two sisters that are completely competent, is the marriage any stronger? No. It's only the Rabbana marriage. So then the Gemara gives three cases. The sisters, first of all, the sisters, okay? And if you're, one man cannot be married to two sisters, even if the second sister falls in Liibum, right? That's the first Mishnah in Yevamos. So again, what happened? Reuben is married to Rachel, Shimon is married to Leah. Two brothers married to two sisters. If one of the brothers dies, then his wife does not fall to Yibum to the other brother. Why? Because that other brother is already married to the other sister. Okay, we don't have a chart, too many charts. But it's pashut enough for you. Everybody, one brother cannot be married to two sisters. So if the second sister falls Yibum to him, it doesn't work. She just doesn't fall. But here's another problem. The problem is that the whole marriage to begin with was only the Rabbana marriage. The two brothers are deaf mute. So when they married the sisters, the whole marriage is a Rabbana marriage. When one of them dies, his wife falls to the other one only midrabbana. It's a zika midrabbana. A zika midrabbana is certainly not stronger than a chois isha midrabbana. You can't be married to two sisters even though they're only married weekly. The Rabbanim marriage. Now, okay, so not to be confused, it's a very simple case. Two deaf brothers are married to two sisters. What are the deaf sisters? We don't really care. They can both be competent, they can both be incompetent, one could be yes, one can be not. The point is the two brothers their marriage is the Rabbanim. So now we have the reverse case. Same exact thing. What if the two sisters are deaf, mute? So their marriage to the two men, to the two brothers, are also only the Rabbanon, because they are deaf. So now it doesn't matter what the brothers are. They could be completely competent, or they could be completely incompetent, or one is, one isn't. The bottom line is, there's no yibum. And there's no chalitza even. Why? Because if they were all competent, that the Gemara is going to say in a second, but there's no chalitza. Why? Because the marriage, the two sisters cannot be married to one guy, even when it comes to yibum. Okay, so they can't be married together. Gival. And if they weren't sisters, yichnoisu. So over here is very important, just to point out. What does yichnoisu mean? Two brothers married to women, not sisters. Let's say the brothers are deaf. Let's say these women are deaf. Yichnoisu. So they do yibum. What about chalitza? No. Why can't you do chalitza? So let me see if I have the pasuk here somewhere. Oh, here's the pasuk I have. Here it is. First of all, either he has to say it, and then she says her psukim, but there has to be an amira, so in Mela they cannot do chalitza. What could they do? Yibum. Now, if they do yibum, are they stuck for life together? No. Why? Okay, I like that. I'll say that in a second. That doesn't apply here so much, but you could do a get, because get doesn't require amira. Chalitza requires amira. So the trick is do yibum, and then you can get out. But you have to do yibum. You can't do chalitza. Okay. Now, you see over here that this marriage is only what kind of marriage? The Rabbana marriage. And we didn't do Gzeira. We didn't do Gzeira that they shouldn't be able to get divorced. Gzeira may be a Raiza marriage. So you see that we're not geyser one for the other. We have to say, like we said before, that what? That if a person is a cheresh from the beginning, so he cannot divorce if she fell from a brother that's a pikeh. But if the brother was a cheresh, then he could divorce. So we're going to go back to that teretz. Even if the guy was a smart guy, and he became a cheresh later on, and he knows how to write, they hold you cannot get divorced. Right? Rav said you could. Chalugim olav chaverov al Reb Shimon Gamliel, and he says you cannot. They hold you cannot get divorced, even b'chstab. Amar Baye v'nanay mitanina nishtatis lo yahrzeit nischar shu. If she became a shaita, he cannot divorce her. So I mentioned a few times there's different levels of shaita. There's a shaita that's such a big shaita, doesn't know how to watch her get, and she keeps on running back to her husband. You can never divorce that. There's a shaita who could watch her get, won't run back to her husband, but she'll become hefker. People take advantage of her. So it says, nishtatis lo yahrzeit, she shouldn't get divorced. Nischara shu or nishtata, if he became a deaf mute or he lost it, lo yahrzeit ilamis. So the Gemara is going to emphasize, what does it mean, ilamis? You can never, ilamis, forever. What does it mean? My ilamis, the Gemara wants to say, ilamis would mean, in any situation, if he was a pikeach, he was competent, and then he lost his hearing and his voice. Even if he could write it on a piece of paper, ilamis, he can never get divorced. And that's how Rabbi Yochanan learns it. So here, the mechulik, you cannot use a piece of, you can't write it down, you can't be mitzvah on a piece of paper to get divorced. I have to give a lot of cover to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan, that's how he learned that ilamis means that you can't write it down. The mechulik, and they hold that if a person is a pikep, then shtate cannot write down, please divorce my wife. I would have said different pshat. No, what he meant is umay lamas. Even if the guy is pretty with it, but he can't write, then he can't get divorced. But if he could write, says Rav Papa, maybe he could get divorced. Inami, another pshat of what this ilamis means. Look at the Rebbe Yitzchok. Rebbe Yitzchok, v'artoyer shoytam is gareshes. Here, we have this idea. A shoyta could get divorced. Yeah? Look, a person can divorce his wife, whether she likes her or not, against her will. Today there's a cherem derogation. But that shows that she doesn't need das. So who cares if she doesn't have das? Divorce a shoyta also. You could divorce min ha-Torah, right? On this level of a shoyta that knows how to keep her get, on a level that a shoyta can't keep her get and can't stay away from her husband, midoraisa she can't get divorced. Upon him, Rav Yitzchok says the vartoyer shoyta is gareshes. That other, the lower level shoyta. So what he's trying to say is like this. There's a lashon here. In the beginning we say It's not Ilamis. Then the Sefer says Ilamis. So he says very simple. Ilamis means it's a very strong get. It's a deraisa get. And the ratio is only the Rabbanan. That's why it doesn't say Ilamis. Okay. Nupshan in the word Ilamis. Says they tell a guy, you want us to write a get? So basically, we're very, very familiar with the sugya. We had it literally 5 days ago or so in Samach Heyesh, Samach Vav. You want us to write a get? And he said, right. What's missing over here, Rabbi Isai? Tenu. He said, right. So this is also going to the sugya of Milam Mimsur L'Shliach Hanat. So they took their job. They were supposed to write, and they told the Sofer to write, and they aid them to sign. And then they gave it to him, and he gave it to her. I get bottle. It's not a good get. Why? So remember these words, please. So the Mishnah says, we're going to go back to these words today. Until what? When is it a good get? When he tells the Sofer write and tells the Edom to sign. Okay, you have to say you write and you sign. Says Gemara, Taima Delematnu. It's because he didn't say Tnu. Homa Tnu Noista. If he said Tnu without, Rabbi said without the word Kisvu, if you have a pencil, write that in there. You wrote Tnu without writing Kisvu, you give it. Mani, Rebbe Meir, Domar Mili, Mimsur L'Shliach. So, I don't know if we have it over here. Fine. Just to show this, is that up there? Mili Mimsur L'Shliach. And then we have also, just to remind the Olam, we had this guy. You remember this? Mili Mimsur L'Shliach. Basically, if Trump tells the shliach, go do something, he just gave him words, could he take those words and give it over to the next guy? This is Mila Mimsurim, it does work, or Mila Loila Mimsurim. Basically, the words just fly up to Shemayim. You can't do it. That was the machlokes we had. So, Remeir holds Mila Mimsurim. Oh, and then Rashi points out, where does he hold that a Mila Mimsurim? If a man tells 3 people, not 2 people, because 2 people would admit that Loila Mimsurim. But if he tells 3 people, like a bezdin, he says, go do this for my wife, go give her, so they could tell somebody else. Says, ask the Gemara, okay, so you told me that it goes according to Remeir, in Maseifa. But in the same Mishnah it says, the last line in our Mishnah it says, he must tell the Sofer, and he must tell the Eidim, Asan Rabbi Yossi. That goes according to Rabbi Yossi, how could that be that the Reisha Rabbi Meir V'Sefer Rabbi Yossi? Says Gemara in. And in fact, we're going to go back to the stars because we have no other choice. The Reisha is Mili Mimsur L'Shliach, the Sefer is Mili Lo Mimsur L'Shliach. Reisha Rabbi Meir V'Sefer Rabbi Yossi. Abai Omar, I forgot to ask the Belzer. I really want to ask him. It just seems to me that it's always a baya that kind of sticks up and says, you know what? No, Laila, it could go like this. I don't know. I'm going to ask him. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll forget. Somebody remind me. No. And it goes. We could say that the entire Mishnah goes according to Remeir, that Mili Mimsum L'Shliach, he could give over words. It's very tricky. L'Oyamatnu means he said Kisvu Tnu. He did say Tnu, but he said Kisvu. You just read it. The reading comprehension here is L'Oyamatnu, that he only said Kisvu. No. He said Kisvu Tnu. So when a person says, when he says Kisvu Tnu means only him, only them. But if he said Tnu by itself, then he made a shliach. He didn't say Tnu. So now, remember the last words of the Mishnah. It says, you have to do where the Sofer, he has to tell the Sofer, and the Edom Chasaymu. Ask the Gemara, and the Gemara is going to ask like 3-4 questions on these words. If you're right that he didn't say Tnu, so it should have said in the Mishnah, Tnu. If the whole point is that he's missing the word Tnu, so that's what the Mishnah should have said. He must say the word Tnu. Why do you say that's not the point. The point is that he didn't say Tnu. So Tnu. Okay, you're right. He didn't tell 3. Remember, we said the whole point was, according to a mayor, he has to tell to 3, because even according to a mayor, the mila mimser l'shliach, that you could give over words to another agent, that's only if he said to 3. Yachi, same question again. So the end of the Mishnah said, oh, you know when it works? When he tells the 3. He didn't say 3. Elo, so the Gemara goes back. Instead of saying the entire Mishnah is Reb Meir, we're saying the opposite. El Kula Reb Yosi. What does Reb Yosi say? Mili loy mimser l'shliach. You can't take your words and give it to an agent. That doesn't work. I don't know, Rabbi Kaplan, when you were here when we learned the sugya, I'm like figuring that everybody learned the sugya, but if not, okay. Oimer Imru, we just said it also like 5 days ago. Oimer Imru is the situation where a husband tells an agent, instead of he tells the agent, our whole shiloh is he tells the agent, go write a get. Could he take those words and give it to another shliach? But if the husband says specifically, go tell somebody else to write a get, that's exactly what the husband wants, so it doesn't work. Oimer Imru, he says, you tell somebody else. The whole machlokes is if you didn't tell him to tell somebody else, he told you write the get, and he decides on his own he's going to tell somebody else to do it. But if he says straight out, Imru, I want you to tell somebody else to do it, then it should work according to Rabbi Yosef. He didn't say Imru. Says Gemara, again, the same question, the same words at the end of the Mishnah. Why does the Mishnah emphasize? Then you have to tell the sofer to write into it and to sign. That's not the point. The point is that until the husband tells you to tell another agent, then it doesn't work. And this question we had also. The other day, it was a little complicated, but we had it. I remember exactly where, I was in Tannersville, I think, on day 1. But now, and it was mamish like at the end of the daf over there. But now, kosav soifer v'eit kosher. And I said, I wonder it might be a kiss from Hashem, because it says chsam soifer and ksav soifer. The kiss from Hashem, if it was the chsam soifer's yahrzeit, but we're half a year off. So the guy screamed out, maybe it's the ksav soifer's, okay, fine. Maybe it's the ksav soifer's yahrzeit, I don't know. So again, kosav soifer ve'ed kosher. That a soifer who wrote a get and 1 aid is kosher. Now that doesn't make any sense. Yes, there's 1 aid that signed, but also the guy that wrote the get signed. So it goes like this. Rabbi said real quickly. I'm sorry because at the end of the shir, it's just like last time at the end of the shir. If a husband tells Adam to sign a get, and they are mechabed the soifer because they have rachmanos on him, they want to be mechabed him. And the sofer signs, what happens to the get? It's a pasul get, and if she gets married with the get, the kids are mamzer. So we have a big problem, because this Balgaiva sofer guy is going to always want the kibbut of signing. So we should make a rule that says, in rule number 1, the sofer should never be able to sign. So we never have a problem with hurting people's feelings and covet issues and this and that. Fine. I'm not going to go there. Fine. And I'm just thinking about these balagaiva. I love it. There's the hat, and the mizrach. They always find the seat of the. I don't know. Okay. So, but the other thing is that if a sofer knows that you cannot tell another agent to do something, then we won't have a problem. Oimer Imru is no good. If every sofer knows Amru Imru is no good, then we won't have an issue. So from the fact that we don't have a takana, you hear the cheshbon? It's a little bit of a cheshbon. From the fact that we don't have number 1, just a blanket halach that every sofer shouldn't sign, so we know that the number 2 is right. That what? That every sofer knows that he should not take a kibbud to sign his name because the guy doesn't have the right to give him the kibbud unless he heard it directly from the husband. So that would prove that Rabbi Yossi holds that Amru Imru is no good. So how can you tell me that Rabbi Yossi holds Amru Imru is good? That's the whole cheshbon. Yeah? No? It's a little cheshbon. You can say it again. But by the way, I'm mentioning Chasam Sofer here, so I gotta say something very, very chashav from the Chasam Sofer. He says that you know why you can't learn tomorrow Erev Tisha B'Av after Chatzos. Don't think that you can't learn after Chatzos because of the Avelos of the Beis Hamikdash. That's not true. The reason is because when you learn Torah, it keeps you happy for 6 hours. And and Mamela, you'll go into Tisha B'Av happy. That's what he says. Givaldik. Akopanim. So let's just do this sugya real quickly again. Now we're talking about that the Sofer signed his name together with one other witness. And who does it go like? Ayin Beis Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yossi. Again, we're trying to prove what does Rabbi Yossi hold by Amru Imru. When the husband says specifically, I want you to appoint another agent, could he appoint another? Because Rabbi Yossi holds that you cannot give over words to shliach. But in a case where the husband says specifically that I do let you shliach make another shliach, nothing minei churba. We could have mamzerim lach. Why? Because sometimes the husband will appoint two different adim, not the sofer. And he says the sofer, you're right. We'll play the sofer, but because they don't want to embarrass, they want to give the guy a lot of covet. They'll tell him, hey, you sign. And the husband didn't say that. And Memela what? It can't be that Rabbi Yossi holds that Amr Imru is good. He must hold that Amr Imru is no good. And therefore the sofer will never accept that covet and sign his own name. And we have nothing to worry about. Because if he held that Amr Imru is good, then we have to be concerned that a sofer might take that covet and these Gittin won't be good. So Mela can't be Rabbi Yossi. The whole pshat doesn't go that Amr Imru will go to Rabbi Yossi. So we have to come on to the doichak pshat. It is a doichak. That the beginning of the Mishnah is one man domer and the sefer is another man domer. The beginning of the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir, then there's Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day tomorrow at 11:30 Beis Hashem, and Motzei Tisha B'Av Yontiv. Our Yontiv is going to be 11 p.m. Shkoyach. As you're coming, hope you miss more flights.